So section 1.5 this is going to be our last day talking with infinite limits and getting an infinity as possibly an answer. So today I want to spend a little bit of time on one-sided limits. And if you remember a one-sided limit, we're looking at the left or the right side of the graph at that x value. So in example 1, we're looking at the limit as x goes to 3 from the positive side of x minus 1 over x minus 3. And remembering the first rule of limits, if I plug in 3, we would end up with 2 over 0. And we know that 2 over 0 is not possible. We cannot divide by a 0 there. So we know that this does not exist. But what happens on the positive side of 3? So we know it doesn't exist, but if we could hone in maybe a little bit on where this graph is going, it gives us a better idea of what is happening as x gets closer to 3 on that positive side. So if I think about x minus 1 over x minus 3, and I look at that graph of it, and if you need to, you can use your graphing calculator. That's not a problem. If you know what the graph is, that's fine as well. So if we graph this, we should see the graph is coming down like this, and then comes out again like this. And we have that vertical asymptote in there. That should hopefully ring a bell to us. So as x goes to 3 from the positive side here, we're looking at going to positive infinity. So we know it does not exist, but we're also going to put in that it goes to positive infinity, just to give it a little better idea of what's happening with it. In example 2, we're taking the limit as x goes to 4 of x plus 1 over x. Well, here as we plug in to start, if I plug in 4, I end up with 5/4. We're done. Once we get the value out, if we plug the number in, get a value out, we've got what our limiting value is, so we don't need to necessarily talk anymore about the positive or the negative side of 4. I have just one more example here. Your favorite, some trig. We have the limit as x goes to pi over 2 on the positive side of 4 over the cosine of x. So here, if we think about this, and you can think of it a couple different ways, and you can use your graphing calculator as well, 4 cosines of x is really 4 secants of x as well. So hopefully, in your mind, when you're talking about the secant of x, and you're talking about the graph of it, we know that we have 1 over the cosine of x. So it's going to give us this, remember, parabolic looking shape form that goes along with the cosine of x there. So, and we also know, hopefully, that it went through pi over 2, or we had a horizontal asymptote at pi over 2, and at pi, negative pi over 2, so on and so forth. So as we're looking at this pi over 2 from the positive side, if there's our pi over 2, from the positive side, that's on the right side of it, it's going to a negative infinity, which also is a does not exist. And that's going to give us what our limit is as x goes to pi over 2 from the positive side. Again, you can think of this any way you want. You can talk about it in secants, which gives us hopefully this graph. You could also put in your calculator. Remember, if you put in your calculator, that you use the radian degree or radian mode and not the degree mode. And that's going to end our infinite limits, section 1.5.